Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 227th, October the 20th, 2017, Friday. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I especially want to thank my new subscribers and new viewers, and of course my seasoned subscribers and viewers as well. I appreciate every one of you, and you're why I do make the effort. Thank you. Alrighty, let's tick them off. The Daily Mail is reporting today that MGM was behind pulling Mr. Campos from the interviews and putting him on the Ellen DeGeneres show. It appears also that MGM is a sponsor of Ellen DeGeneres' program, and also they have an Ellen video game gambling machine at the Mandalay Bay. Now, why is MGM so concerned about Mr. Campos? It's more than just the fact that he was an employee there. Why are they going to all this effort? Well, I'll tell you, it's very, very simple. It's called lawsuits. Yes, all those people who were killed and injured, they all have a potential lawsuit against the Mandalay, which is, of course, MGM. And you can bet that the lawyers are crawling all over Las Vegas and have been since the shooting. They're probably camped out at all those hospitals and urgent care centers and all the other places where those victims were taken, looking for clients for the massive lawsuits that are sure to come. You can take that to the bank. So this is why MGM is so concerned. This is why they pulled Jesus from making those 5 interviews. This is why they got him the hell out of there. And this is why they put him on Ellen to get some softball questions. Purely, if you guys saw any of that interview, you can tell that Mr. Campos is not particularly, he may be shy, he's not particularly well-spoken. You can tell he wasn't very comfortable in front of a TV camera and things like that. And I just think that they were afraid that he was going to say something he shouldn't say, which could put them in legal jeopardy more than they already are. But it goes beyond that, and I'm sure most of you noticed that as opposed to asking him questions where he could give answers and we could really begin to understand where he was coming from, what Ellen was doing was basically asserting a statement, a narrative, a thought, a fact, a series of facts, and then allowing him to kind of, yeah, that's it. Everything was an assertion to him, not a question. This tells you that Ellen was very well coached. It's political theater. It's kabuki theater. That's what we're watching. Not many people are buying it, and I'll get into that in a moment. Well, the Senate has passed the $4 trillion budget plan. What does this tell us? It tells us that Twitch McConnell blinked. He blinked hard. Twitch, working along his friends in the deep state, have been doing everything they can to sabotage President Trump's agenda. But he's feeling the heat, and he has been feeling the heat. And I understand behind closed doors, he's been told that if he doesn't get this tax deal done and get taken care of some business by the time they go to Christmas recess, that when they come back, they were going to vote his ass out. That's right, vote him out of the Senate Majority Leader position. So he's feeling the heat. He hates Trump, and I'm pretty sure Trump hates him. But they're being forced now to work together, and you could just see the pain on his face in that press conference. He doesn't like it, but he's feeling the pressure, and Twitch definitely blinked. So now he got that budget through. He certainly did. And he's also saying now that they will get the tax reforms done. Just a couple of weeks ago, he was telling us, well, we'll be able to get to that. Well, we might do some modest tax cuts. We'll talk about this, talk about that. No. That whole narrative has changed now. Twitch McConnell feeling the heat, and Twitch blinked. Trump wins again. Well, following up on the story that the Hill broke 2 days ago with John Solomon and Sarah Carter of Circa News regarding the Uranium One purchase and the cover-up that involves nearly the entire senior level of the Obama administration, including Obama himself, which implicates the Clinton Foundation, the Rotten Reverend, and her husband, the pervert, Slick Willie, for their role in this pay-for-play to get this deal done, despite knowing all the crimes that took place. Extortion, racketeering, blackmail, you name it. It's all there. Definitely a RICO violation. So that brings some questions to light, doesn't it? Let's cover a few of those questions. Why did Slick Willie seek a meeting with the Russian nuclear official amid the Uranium One deal? Why did Slick Willie seek a meeting with the Russian nuclear official and uranium over the in the midst of the Uranium One deal? That's a very good question. I would like to hear the answer from Slick Willie. My guess is he's not talking. My guess is right now he's lawyering up, and he's pissed at Hillary. If she just would have gone away. Next question. Why did Bill Clinton get double his normal speaking fee to give a speech in Moscow just prior to the Uranium One deal? Previously, his speaking fee was $250,000 for a 1-hour speech. But when he gave that Moscow speech to the oligarchs, he was paid $500,000 for 1 hour. So why did Bill Clinton get double his normal speaking fee to give a speech in Moscow just prior to the Uranium One deal? That's another question Slick Willie needs to answer. Next question. Why would a former president want to meet with a Russian nuclear official? That's a really good question. I like that one. Probably because I came up with that one myself. Next question. Why did APCO Worldwide, a consulting firm with close ties to the Clintons, lobby on behalf of the Russian nuclear giant 10X in relation to the Uranium One deal? And how much were they paid for their lobbying efforts? $3 million. $3 million in lobbying fees. Who paid the fees? Probably the same people who are engaged in all this corruption and extortion and blackmail. Probably the same people who got a slap on the wrist and were allowed to go away quietly so that the deal could go through, despite the fact that the entire senior level of the Obama administration knew about this operation. Next question. Why did Russian oligarchs donate $145 million to the Clinton Foundation amidst the Uranium One deal? $145 million. Nor did they disclose that. Not only that, the Rotten Reverend signed a document with the Obama administration that she wouldn't conduct any operations with the Clinton Foundation where there might be any hint of conflict of interest. But she did it anyway. And how did they do it? Well, as Mr. Charles Ortel lays out in his book, as Mr. Peter Schweitzer lays out in his book, they did it by routing the money through their good friend in Canada. Yes, they used some trickery, but you can always follow the money. And that's what Mr. Ortel and Mr. Schweitzer did. They followed the money. And since we're following the money, we should probably follow the money in that Las Vegas shooting. Because there, you'll find a couple of interesting characters who are making out like bandits. There's a lot of people making a lot of money right now from that Las Vegas shooting. Their names should be on a short list. Cui bono? Why wasn't APCO Worldwide interviewed by the FBI in relation to the Clinton Uranium One deal? Hard to believe that with as deep involvement as they had on both sides of the coin, that the FBI never thought to interview them in relation to the Clinton Uranium One deal. That's a very good question. These are all very good questions that need to be asked and answered by the Rotten Reverend Clinton and her husband, the man with the morals of an alley cat, Slick Willie, as well as Attorney General Holder, who is a criminal in his own right, Remember Fast and Furious and all the rest targeting conservatives with the IRS? How about Loretta Lynch? We're going to learn more about her in a moment and her role in this. And of course, King Mac Daddy himself, Barack Hussein Obama, right at the tip of all of it. And he's out there getting involved in politics again. Unbelievable. Now I want to go back to this Jesus interview with Ellen. So I've watched the clip a few times, and something dawns on me. Remember, the 4 police officers who went on 60 Minutes told the interviewer there that when they approached, they were at the stairwell at the 32nd floor, they approached the steel door that leads into the hallway, and they found that it had been sealed shut using a long metal screw and 2 pieces of metal to essentially seal the door shut. Remember that. Because what we learn next from the little Ellen interview with Jesus, this is what he says. He says he was 1 floor below when he was contacted and told to check on a door alert, which means, according to him, that a door is either open, been left ajar, or not completely shut. So then he says he goes down to check on that door. But when he gets down to the door, he says it's essentially sealed shut, locked. Can't get it open. So he has to go around. Well, wait a minute. If the door being ajar or slightly left open is what triggered the alarm, then how is it possible that when he got there, the door was sealed shut? If the door was sealed shut, it shouldn't have triggered off an open door alarm. It can't be both. It can't be ajar and open and at the same time sealed shut, can it? Of course it can't. He stepped on it there. That's why they didn't want this guy out there talking, being asked questions by journalists with the TV cameras and the lights in his face. Can be a little nerve-wracking, especially when you got to go out there and try to drop a line of bullshit. And we, of course, can figure out just from watching a brief interview with him that this guy is not terribly comfortable with pressure. If he thinks that's the last interview he's going to do, he's wrong. He's absolutely incorrectamundo. But now we understand why MGM wanted this guy nowhere near 5 TV interviews with journalists who would ask him these types of questions. The question I want to ask him is, well, Mr. Campos, you were there on the floor the whole time. You were there the whole time. You were shot in the leg. You laid there in the hallway, crawled back into a room, waited till the cops got there. Then you stayed for the entire time. You heard the commencement of the shooting all the way through the end of the shooting. You laid there in the hallway the whole time, through the entire operation, even staying until the police went in with explosives, is what we're told, blew the door in and went in. He was there for the whole thing. But never did Jesus the hero tell us that he heard the gunshot, the single gunshot, which would have been the gunshot that ended the life of the shooter. No way he could have been 30 feet down the hall and not heard that single gunshot, especially since they had just evacuated the floor. There was nobody up there but the shooter, the 4 cops, Jesus, and maybe that engineer guy. He might have been there. The maintenance engineer might have been there as well. They don't say if he stayed or went. But we know one thing. Jesus was there right along with those 4 cops for about 45 minutes with no noise on that floor. You're telling me they didn't hear a gunshot? Bullshit. Bullshit. Not buying it. Nope. Well, we're now learning who it was that blocked the FBI informant from testifying to Congress about Russia bribing the Clintons in the Uranium One scandal. Just to refresh your memory, what we're talking about here is that we learned from the Hill, the confidential source was essentially a mole who was planted into this operation back in 2009. And of course, he gathered up emails, recorded telephone calls, took a lot of information, documents, and things and such to prove what was going on with these Russian oligarchs who were essentially bribing and doing various other things to try to get this Uranium One deal done. So he uncovers all this, and then as the Uranium One deal is about to go forward, and of course one thing he observed, and he told this to his lawyer, and we know because his lawyer said this to Sarah Carter in the interview, that he realized that the primary persons being bribed were the Clintons, specifically the Rotten Reverend Clinton. She was the Secretary of State, and she sat on the board, along with Eric Holder, that would approve the deal, along with FBI Director Mueller. All on that little board that approved the deal, all knowing exactly what happened. So at some point when this mole, who's known as confidential witness number 1, when he learned that this deal was going to go through, it troubled him to the point where he decided he wanted to come forward and express his concerns that they would go ahead through with this deal after knowing what was going on, and especially the fact that he learned that this large amount of money, $145 million, was funneled to the Clinton Foundation. Bill Clinton's getting double speaking fees. All sorts of other wonderful things are happening. So he wants to come forward. But then he's put on a gag order. A gag order. And who was that gag order placed on him by? Attorney General Lynch. Attorney General Lynch put the gag order on the mole. Now apparently, a while back in 2014, 2015, when some of this story began to come out because of Mr. Schweitzer and the other gentleman's books, there were some members of Congress and the Intel Committee who decided to look into it. I don't think they actually did public hearings, but behind the scenes they began looking into it. And it appears that they did discover this informant, and that they attempted to talk to him and interview him, and he told them he could not tell them anything about this information that he had, because he had been placed under a gag order and had been threatened by the Department of Justice with fines and jail time if he said anything. So what happens next? Well, what should happen is immediately Attorney General Sessions should remove the gag order. Remove the gag order. This man should sit in front of Congress and he should tell us everything he knows. And the Gateway Pundit, they had a headline. They had a headline that said, "Pressure's mounting on Comey to testify as perjury accusations grow louder." Pressure mounting on Comey to testify as perjury accusations grow louder? Pressure mounting to go to Congress? No, he should be arrested. They should go right now and arrest him. Handcuff him. My God, look at the incredible crimes he committed. He sat right there in that committee. He was asked, did you make a decision to exonerate the Rotten Reverend before or after you conducted the interviews? His answer, after he conducted the interviews. That's called perjury. We know that he leaked a confidential conversation with the president to his friend at Columbia University in order to get a special prosecutor to look into Russia collusion, which is based on a dossier, which it appears was put together on the backside, on the dark side, excuse me, by possibly members of the FBI, possibly the CIA under Brennan and Comey. They're probably the ones that paid for it. Hopefully we'll get to the answer to that question at some point. We know about his association with the Attorney General after the meeting on the tarmac and what happened there. He's got a long history of much more than perjury, obstruction of justice. He stands out there and exonerates Hillary Clinton as the FBI director. Determines what she had in her heart, not his job. Then you have Holder out there making excuses for him, saying, well, I guess he interpreted it the way he thought. I disagree with him, but he interpreted it. It's not his job to interpret. He's the FBI director. His job is to conduct an investigation. Once he conducts the investigation, he turns it over to the Justice Department, and they decide what's in someone's fucking heart. Not the dishonorable James Comey. He should be in ankle chains. He should be in a cell. And that's just some of his crimes. Have I ever done an expose on Comey? Maybe I'll get to that, because he has a long, long track record, my friends. Close association with letting the Clinton cronies off the hook, including major money launderers and drug dealers. He represented BCCI Bank, good friends of the Clintons in the New World Order. He represented them. They pleaded guilty to laundering hundreds of millions of dollars in illegal drug money. He got them off with nothing more than a little plea bargain. They paid a fine, probably not even 10% of the money that they pocketed. Not a single person there lost their license to trade or involved himself in banking in any way, and nobody saw a single day of jail. That's what James Comey does. That's what he does. He gets criminals off the hook. Unless you're just some low-ranking military service member who happened to take a photograph of some piece of military equipment, then he's throwing the book at you. Plays this Boy Scout routine. This guy's dirty, 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 dirty. The perp who started the California wildfires now turns out was an illegal alien who had been deported 5 times. Deported 5 times. Build the wall. Build the wall. Well, just want to finish up on one thing here. I remember back during 9/11, and a lot of people asking a lot of questions about a lot of the strange things that occurred in that little operation, including yours truly. I saw the collapse of World Trade. I bought into the whole thing for 2 years. Bought a hook, line, and sinker. I was right on board. Loved Bush. Voted for Bush. Thought it was great. Then a buddy of mine sent me a video. It was the collapse of World Trade Center 7. I looked at that and said, wait a minute. There's something wrong. That can't happen. That cannot happen. Concrete and steel buildings cannot collapse at near the rate of free fall without removing the inner core, the inner structure. Hundreds of thousands of tons of steel and concrete should have prevented that building from collapsing in on itself like a deck of cards. The only way to get a building to collapse like that is by removing the inner core with explosives. We heard the explosions. We felt the explosions. We saw the explosions. It was a controlled demolition. Period. Now, when many of us were making those statements back in 2003, which is when I first got onto it, I remember certain individuals of the so-called conservative media pundits calling us conspiracy theorists, anti-American, America haters, and all the rest. They hated us because their boy George Bush was president and it was a Republican administration. They didn't like that very much. And so they abused all of us who just simply wanted to get to the truth. Now, those very same people, Ann Coulter, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Tucker Carlson, and many more are now calling bullshit on the Las Vegas shooting. Suddenly, they've woken up. That's why this story is not going away, because now it's not just people like an Alex Jones or Stephen Molyneux or The Seeker or someone like that raising questions about the deep state's activities. Now it's mainstream, very, very mainstream people looking at the situation and asking a lot of questions, and they're not buying it. The official story is not making sense. The body has been autopsied and cremated. It's gone. They knew a week ago. What was the official time of death? What was the official cause of death? What weapon fired the fatal shot. And my favorite question, why did not a single one of those people who were on that floor hear the shot? There'll be many more questions. This is not going away. Thank you so much for tuning in. TowerGate Day 227, October 20th, 2017. You guys enjoy your evening. Thank you.